Over to you, Lay.
All right. Thank you so much, Felicia. Hello, everybody. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I am broadcasting live from Northwest Arkansas. Again, my name is Lay Ralston, also known as Mommy Lay. I'd like to thank Faber-Castell USA and, of course, Michaels for having me again to teach you another fun class. And today's class is we're going to create a bullet journal layout, but I would like to know first before we proceed, is everybody here familiar with the term bullet journal? Are you doing some bullet journaling yourself? I'm really curious to know, so you can tell me in the chat section. Also, before I start with the class, I will talk about some of the materials, the supplies that I'll be using for today, just quickly and briefly. And also, if you have any questions, I might be able to see some of your questions in the chat. And if not, I apologize if I miss some, because sometimes it's really hard to kind of talk and then teach and then look at the chat at the same time. But if you are ready, I am excited. I'm ready. I'm going to head over to the overhead camera and we'll get this class started. Okay. I'm going to look at her chat real quick. All right. So new to, yes, bullet journals, good. So just here to doodle, no to bullet journal. Okay. So bullet journal is actually a planning system that was created by Ryder Carroll. And what it is that he created a planning system that worked for him. And so the way I see bullet journal is that you can really create your own system. It is not something that has to be done this way or this way. And there's no wrong or right. It is something that has to work for you and for what your needs when it comes to organization. But if you're new to bullet journaling, it is okay, because like what I've been saying on my Instagram is that when you're bullet journaling or not, whether you're bullet journaling or not, today's class will be fun because we're going to be really learning some doodles. So you can do this for your journals, or you can create card making or just plain sketchbook. Here I have some notebooks with me. These are Archer and Olive notebooks, and I love notebooks, and I hope I'm not the one. If you're here, then I know that you're the same way as myself. I love notebooks, and I have so much notebooks, and I can have more notebooks, just like many different pens and markers. Basically, sometimes I like to keep a notebook just for sketchbook practice, whatever it is that I'm doing. This one is just plain, no dot grid. There's grid journals, there's dot grid, and there's also lined notebooks. It just depends on what you like the most and what works for you. I like blank, I like dot, I like grids. I think my least favorite would be the lined one. Because I do draw and doodle a whole lot. So having the lines is not something that I prefer. But this is just one of my sketchbooks, so you can see some of my practice. And not everything's perfect in here, and not all notebook is used until the end. So let's just put it that way. But we have many different doodles in here. Okay, and then when we say bullet journal, we have the planning system. Some would use their bullet journal for the whole year. Myself, I am not really good at it, keeping at it, but I love notebooks, so I just kind of like keep switching and all that, but it works for me. Whatever it is, I just migrate everything in this notebook, the things I need, the things that I thought worked for me, I would switch it over to my new journal. The tracking system, there's a lot of different journalers or bullet journalers that does a lot of tracking, and I'm really not into tracking. I've tried it. I just couldn't keep up with it. So that's what it is. But basically, a planner or journal will have a yearly overview, so they would do that. They put in their goals or their vision boards. I am a believer of vision boards. I love vision boards. They would use it monthly this way, and they'll have many different layouts of weekly. If you are new to bullet journal and you would search, bullet journal, hashtag bullet journal on Instagram, on YouTube, you might get a little overwhelmed in the beginning because there's a whole lot of different types of bullet journalers. Like what I said, there are these ones that creates masterpiece in their notebook, and I wish I had the time to do that. Unfortunately, I don't always have the time, but I really love getting creative in my journals. And so I would doodle every once in a while. And these are not hard. This would take me like 10 minutes to create florals like this, then create like little separated areas to highlight the things I need to put focus on. So you have like a monthly overview, and then I have lists. I do a lot of lists when I'm planning. So there's a lot of dailies in here, and I do use some stickers. I do use some stamps, but really I use my bullet journal to be creative. So I really try my hardest to create my doodles, my own doodles in my notebook. So these are just examples of that. And this class, we're going to use my current notebook. Ooh, this is kind of a little scary because I'm really going to create my layout with you today. So I have here the brand new one. This is for this week. So let's just look at the September. This is the monthly here. I created this cute monthly small boxes because I'm practicing to write small. I write heavily and I write big. So that's just me personally. And so that's one thing that really helps me when it comes to putting focus on the things that I really want to practice on. For example, I write so big and I have no problem writing big. Now I really want to try and write small and tiny. And so that's my goal for this next couple of months remaining of the year. So this is my September. This was last week. All of these were created using Faber-Castell Pitt artist pens. And we're going to talk about the Pitt artist pens next. So this is for this week. And we're going to create the next week layout. Okay, so Pitt artist pens, why do I love using these? Because as you can see, aside from this notebook being awesome, being really thick and not bleed through, the Pitt artist pens are water-based India ink. India ink will not bleed through, even if I'm using a different notebook that is much thinner. If you're familiar, some of you guys are really, I'm using an A5 journal. So some of you are doing bullet journal for a long time. So you do know some of the notebooks out there, like the Leuchtturm notebook is really thin. You will get a little bit of this, what do you call that? Like shadow. And I have no problem with the shadow. It's something, it's a personal preference. You might, I've learned to embrace it because I use the Hobonichi as well. Hobonichi is a Japanese brand. And it's very thin. If the Bible paper, it's kind of like this, but it is the paper of the Hobonichi is called the Tomoe River paper. So it's really thin paper. But as you can see, I can use some watercolors in here and not worry about any bleed through whatsoever. So I use my, this is Pitt artist pens. Look how bold the black is, really saturated the colors, but there's no bleed through on the other side. And look at how much I packed in the color black in here, but there's no bleed through into the other side. And this paper is really, really thin because you can see the shadowing. But the India ink is perfect for your journals and your bullet journals because they will not bleed through. All right, so talk about that one. We're going to do this for supplies. One thing that I have learned through the years of trying to attempt to really keep a bullet journal is I know that I really get frustrated with lines because I could never sit down. And some people, it's very relaxing for them, to use a ruler and make sure everything's counted, having the correct dot grids and all that, having the same sizes. I am just going to say in advance that I am not that type of bullet journal. I have tried my hardest, but to be completely honest, it just became super overwhelming that I wasn't enjoying the process. And to me, it was always about the process. If I'm not enjoying something, this is, I'm not going to continue on with that, with whatever I'm doing, so trying to keep up with the straight lines. I know that I don't like it. So I'm just going to say, you know what? I'm not going to do that. So as you can see, my lines are not perfect. I don't think, maybe I counted, maybe this one's thinner, more narrow than this other one, but visually overall, they just look the same to me. So I like what I'm doing with weekly. I like verticals. Okay, so you might prefer horizontal this way, my brain works much better when my list is going this way, when everything's kind of going from the top to bottom. So again, it's a personal preference. So whatever we're doing today, our doodles today, you might, say, you know what, my layout would be horizontal. I prefer the horizontal better than the vertical. All right, I think I've said enough, or let's get this class started. Okay, so what is important to you? Do you want to have like a big, kind of like this type of September, or you want to have a much smaller one? So that one is one thing that you have to make a decision. It's like, okay, I want to play with my alphas or my letters, my fonts. Then that's something you might have to reserve much larger space on top, or if you want to put your month over here, you can do that as well. Okay, so I think since I created like these boxes, I think I like this better. I really like this layout, but I think I created my month here a little too big, so we might make that a little bit smaller because like what I said, I write big naturally. So we're going to do that. I'm just going to pull out my calendar here because I make mistakes a lot. It's always a great practice to start using pencil first when you're doing layouts, when you're doing a lot of doodling in your notebook. Some don't like to use pencil. It's okay. I like to kind of like sketch lightly with a pencil because it just helps me out, especially with the lines, since I don't use a ruler, kind of like just visually helps me to plan my whole layout. Because always white pages like this, I understand it is overwhelming. I still get overwhelmed with that. So trust me, that's normal. Okay, so we're still in September, but I want now to be a little bit more on the fall side. So we're going to do September this time. If you are wanting to learn brush scripts, brush lettering, modern script, we created cast workshops with Faber-Castell and Michael's as well. You can find that on Michael's YouTube channel. So if you'd like to learn, modern calligraphy, brush calligraphy, I do recommend checking out some of the past workshops that we created. Okay, so I'm just going to copy what I did here, but instead of it being horizontal, I'm going to make it vertical here. So I'll have my September, my months over here on this side. So I'm going to reserve 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dots. Let me zoom in real quick. And the way I would do my letters would be bubble letters as well. But the way I would do it, I always just start with simple letters. I don't try to finish the bubbles first, just so I can see my spacing. Just very lightly sketch your month. So September. And what actually you can do is you can create your monthly overview over here also later. That's something that you'd like. I know I never use it. It's kind of like more for like decorations. I know I don't never look at my calendar there. I just look at the monthly that I created. So we have September over there. I like that spacing, and I'm going to leave a little bit of area over here for my to-dos. So to do your flags, I like to do flags, or just to be completely honest with you, simple, just kind of like lay down my markers in there, and I'm good with that as well. So now we're going to create our week. So 1, 2, 3, 4, since we changed our layout, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1 would be for to-dos and lists and all that. I know I changed my mind, right? Because I said I wanted this way. I think we're going to change it this time. All right, so be patient with me here. So we're going to do 4 boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is where my pencil is really handy because I can just kind of like create my sketches very light. And then it helps where the boxes are going to come. And you're not afraid because, when you're like laying down the markers, it's like, oh my God, this is so permanent. And so look at this, because we just sketched and we didn't put down the markers first, I know that I could still extend my line. I have enough space. And then I'm going to tell you how many, I'm going to count it if you'd like. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So 19 dots. This one has to go up. Here, 19. Right, and I'll just go down and this one, I'll bring it all the way down. I just left one dot grid, one line at the bottom. All right. So this one, we're going to create a much.
Hey, Lay, once you get through, could you bring it up a little bit so everyone can see?
Hold on 1 second. Did you say what? Say that again, please.
Yeah, once you get through sketching, if you could just raise it up a little bit so everyone can see.
Okay, so we can see the overview. Yes. There we go. All right, got it. Okay, so this one, I'm going to leave one dot grid. And then I'm just going to look and follow my lines here. So I know that it stopped there. Repeat the same process for the next box. The width, so we have 19 down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 here, and then there's one space. And then we have 10 and 10. So if you want to follow along and do the same, all right? So we're going to count 10 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This time we're going to have extra here, and you can use it for something else if you like, or I will actually put in my doodles over here on this side. That's why I'm still going to make my boxes this narrow. Okay, so I'm just going to follow it along. 19, stuff over there. 1. There's no space in between from this box to this box, so there's no extra dot grid in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so right now it's just sketched, so it'll be a little difficult to see. So 10, 10, and then 19 going down. Pretty sure this bottom is more. Right, so we have all our sketches. And this is where we're going to create our designs here. Now this one, we can create like stacked pumpkins and create that cute bear. We can also put them inside our boxes, you know, so you don't have to follow with me. So if you like to have yours in a monthly layout or something like that, or you're just really practicing your doodles, then that's fine as well. But if you're creating along with me today, with us today, we'd love to see your creation. So please do tag us at Michael's store, Faber-Castell USA, and I'm also on Instagram online. It's at Mommy Lay. All right, so now we're done with our sketching. We're going to create our stacked kawaii doodles. Now with doodles, I really am very relaxed with my doodling. It's not my artwork, my type of artwork is called kawaii art. And so kawaii art is really, really simple. And when I'm teaching doodles and kawaii doodles, I always start with basic shapes because really what it is just basic shapes put together. And you're creating all these cute images. You're using the basic simple shapes like circles, you know, half circle, diagonal lines, you know, lines, triangles sometimes, but everything is in the much more wider size, kind of like a chubby size. But that's my personal taste or style when it comes to doodling. You might want to try and do something else. You might want to have it narrow and skinny, and that's okay. But as long as we have our shapes, it's going to be all right. Okay, so for my pumpkins, I want to start with a very long, narrow one. So if you're new to doodles, you want to start sketching your basic shape this way. It always helps, just kind of like visually seeing the drawing. It's like, okay, a pumpkin is like this, and then you can, from there, you can make things step by step. So, all right, once you start with your size of pumpkin, I always start with the middle, this way. Just gonna like a very long oblong style, oblong shape. So very skinny oval, right? That's the middle part. And then from here, I will just start adding my letter C's. See, it's kind of like just the letter C in here. Just adding that. So your first sketch has to be very light, and then you can go and add your next layer. And here, just the letter C opposite way. And I go on the last side, and then add my other side. All right, so I know that I'm going to stack another pumpkin here. I'm not going to do the tip of that pumpkin. So I'm going to add one more pumpkin. Play with your size of the pumpkin. Since we created something narrow and skinny here, I'm going to make this one kind of like short and stubby. And I'll create my basic shape first, just knowing my shape of the pumpkin. So look at that sketch. I mean, it's nothing extra or special, right? But repeating the same process, I'll start with the middle. This oval, very skinny oval. Then I'll start sketching my letter C's to create the body of the pumpkin this way. And if you're someone that likes to play with water medium in your journals, then you will really love the India ink, because India inks are waterproof. And so you can use watercolors using the India ink in there, and that's going to stay in there and not worry about smudging and messing up your artwork. So we have our second pumpkin in here. So this time we can create here another one, but a much more smaller. So we create your basic shape again of our pumpkin. Like that. Here we go. Let's zoom in. This might help a little bit. There's that here. So we have our basic shape, just like that. And then I'll start again, repeat the process, and start the middle oval. Way. And then do it this way. I'll keep adding this letter C. And add this one over here. And then this one, I want to make sure that my bottom line is more stretched at the bottom, because you have to have a wider, because this is the base of your pumpkin. So I'm going to stop right there. All right, and then I'm going to add the stalk of the pumpkin. Make it tiny, just like that. Nothing fancy, very simple. Just this way. And then we can play around with the vines. You can do, outside of the boxes. That way, kind of like wrap around some of your boxes. That's an idea. You can try that. And see the beauty of pencils, that you can just erase it when you're not happy with it. And so I'm just going to go, one is going on top. So that vine, that will have one kind of like wrapping around this way. And we'll have one just going up that way. All right, so now that I have the basic shape, what I'm going to do is, this is oh gosh, Jen, help me out. I really love this eraser, a putty eraser, because what I do is, instead of going crazy with my eraser, is I kind of like roll with it. You know what? The camera is going on the table. I'm going to adjust it real quick. What I do is I kind of like to just roll it this way. And what it does is just, it will lighten that sketch. It will just give me the perfect silhouette to follow along later when I'm ready to put down my markers in here. So without going crazy, without the eraser suds, dust, this one is just really, really good. But if you don't have it, it's okay. A plain eraser just works the same. All right. So now that I have that, I'm going to create cute things inside my boxes. So I know Mondays are always people like, oh, Mondays. You know, so we're going to create something cute in here. I'm thinking of a bear, witch with a hat, wizard hat, maybe a wizard bear. And I'm going to go zoom in later. Let me just erase a little bit. Needed eraser. There we go. Thank you, Jen. So we're going to create a cute bear over here. Okay, so this is one of my characters that I created. It's a bear, and I call her Pinkie. So to create Pinkie is very, very simple. I want you to be like a little kid right now, you know, because as an adult, we'll try to kind of like overcomplicate things in our head, but really it is simple. So we're going to do Pinkie's head first. And Pinkie's head is not a perfect circle, okay? So don't think of a perfect circle. It's more like widened circle. So stretched on the side, just like that. And we'll create 2 ears. Pinkie's ears are a little big. So you have 2 ears like that. Okay. And then for her body, the way I make it is like really, it goes from the center, and you're just going to create like this. I know you might think, oh, that's too tiny. Trust me, look, we're going to see later. See that? It looks a little tiny, but then kawaii style is like that way anyways. It's like the head is always bigger than the body. And so for her legs, we're just going to create another circle this way. Look. More like a round. I shouldn't say circle because really it's not a perfect circle. Just like that. All right. And then I'm going to create one arm. And then I want her to say hi to people. So we'll make this arm coming from here. And you'll see that later. It's going to look cute. And for Pinkie's eyes, we just have 2 dots and this little tiny nose in the middle. And then 1 straight line. All right. And we're going to make her into a mummy or maybe wear a wizard hat. What do you guys think? For the wizard hat, you can just create this way. And then another line again on top this way. See, just 2 lines. One is longer, straight across Pinkie's head. And then a short line, 2 short lines this way. And then we're just closing that in. You can stretch your hat this way if you'd like. And we'll make long for the wizard hat. So just a lot of wiggly lines to kind of like overstretch it on top. So that if we decide to make her into with a wizard hat, you can put in star, you can put in a maybe a moon in there. And then if you want to see more, you can always erase that top of her head. So you can kind of like fix your hat this way. Because I know sometimes when you overlap your sketches, sometimes it's hard to visualize things. So I try to erase along the way. So kind of like, okay, that doesn't work. This works. It's more proportion. But remember, this is just your first sketch. You know, we can always fix this. If you think like your body is a little too small, if you want it more proportion, again, that's up to you. So we have 1 drawing in there. That's good. We can just start erasing that later. And then so we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. This will be your to-do here. You can create those boxes for your headers. And if this is going to be a Halloween or fall layout, then you can use stars for your dates and things like that. Or I just use plain, really simple, because sometimes when having too much images in a layout, sometimes it's overwhelming. You want the focus to be kind of like still there. So you want the focus to be in your doodles and not so much of the little tiny details, because visually it just helps you out that way. So we have here, I want to add some cobwebs. So cobwebs is really simple. Let me just pull out a notebook so we can practice a little bit. Let's try here. Oh, hello. So try to draw a letter X this way. Letter X. And draw a line across that in the middle. Right? And then another line in the middle. So we have the base for a cobweb. I'm going to go over here. And from here, you're going to draw this shape, kind of like a smile. Or when you're creating scallop, it's the same shape that you're going to create. So you're just going to go like around that. And then repeat the same process. How big your cobwebs, how big you want your cobwebs to be. So see? So that's just how simple it is to create that. You can just go on and on and on. If you want it stretched out a little bit more, then you can stretch out. If you want, bigger spacing, if you want much smaller spacing, it's up to you. Okay, so but that's basically this simple way how to create that cobwebs, and that's what we're going to do over here. Okay, so for here, I think I want that for my Friday because it's the weekend. You can do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday here, or you can do Monday. I like it Monday, Tuesday, first page first, and then my mind goes onto the next page. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So this will be my Friday here. So for my cobweb here, nothing perfect, just I'm going to draw an X, right? And for this, I'm going to go stretch it over there on the other side. And this one will not touch anything. You can go stretch it over there, but I'm not going to do that. And then another line across. So, and I'll do some people like to create their cobwebs really, really perfect. I really don't, as long as it kind of like looks like a cobweb. Some spacing are different than the others. Like that. Right. So we have one cobweb there. And then we're going to create our spider this time. So I want my spider to come from here because I'm pretty sure I'm going to write something in there. Right. And then for the spider, the shape is just really this, a wide oval shape. You can make it long, skinny, and narrow, up to you. And I do the spider legs just this way. I'm just going to make 3. So it's cute. And then I'll make one over here coming from that cobweb. This is for the Sunday, and I'll make my cobweb, my spider over here. Nice. You can play around with the size, make it a little bit smaller. So I'll make 2. And one would be much smaller than the others. Like this. Like that. I guess I am drawing without you guys seeing it. Here we go. So play around with your size. This one is much smaller than the others. I might have to make it a bit smaller, more smaller. Okay. So we have, I think I'm going to draw a pumpkin over here, this side. So I'm just going to draw my basic shape of pumpkin. I want this one a little bit wider because there's only one pumpkin. Start with that middle. Number your oval. And then you do your letter C's. that way. I'll draw the stalk. And I'll stretch that vines to go over here. So just kind of like we're doing, we're copying, but not the same, not the exact same. Because we want to make sure we bring kind of like uniform without being the same. Stretch that vine over here also to go over there on that side. All right, I think we're ready to do some marker. Now with, sometimes I like to use fine point with my drawing, especially when it's small and very detailed like this, because when you're using a brush pen, remember that you can create thin and thick strokes, which I really love and adore. It just depends on my mood as well. Because remember, when you're using a brush pen, you're creating a thin and thick stroke depending on the amount of pressure that you're applying using your markers or your pens. And so if you want just not to worry about that, then make sure to just use a different point of marker. Right now, I'm using the super fine, and I'm using a not colored, not a black, but I might use, no, I think I'm going to use this one because I think I want it more not so crazy popping out of the page, because I want the colors to be the one that's spotlight and centered. Okay, so we're going to create this one. Oh, how do you pronounce this? Indanthrine blue. I hope I pronounced that correctly. This is a 247, and this is the super fine tip of the Pitt artist. So I'm going to start with my doodles first. I have to lightly erase things. All right. I don't know if it's just me, but I always have trouble with lining my sketch work. It's like I can never make it perfect like how I did it in the sketching. I feel like I always mess it up when I do my line art. It's like the sketch is perfect. Why can't I make my thing just as good? Right, but we'll take it one step at a time. So for our bear, we're going to do Pinkie's head. I already messed it up. Whoa! All right, and then I'm gonna make Pinkie's feet first. And then Pinkie's body. And while I'm doing my line art, this is where you can do your changes. If you feel like in your sketch, if you feel like her body was a little too thin or too big, then here you can create your changes in here. Because this is going to be permanent. Sometimes I would like to go over my lines and make it a little thicker, and we'll do that later. We'll worry about the sketch first. And so I'm just going over a sketch that we created. Some wiggly lines here. Do the eyes. I think the super fine is my favorite tip next to the brush. And then we'll do the star. Just like that. This time, if you have the same color in the brush, like I do, I can go over the outline and make it thicker. So this is just my personal style. Kind of like make the outside lines bolder than the rest of the drawing. Remember that this is your artwork, so there's no wrong or right here. Just enjoy that process. the amount of pressure that you apply using your marker, that will be how thick and thin your strokes are going to look like. It's not the brush pen that is doing it. It is the pressure that you are using when applying, when drawing, using the brush pens. Sometimes it's like I'm trying not to breathe, holding my breath here. There. Hey. All right, so we have Pinkie. You're cute, Pinkie. I'm going to switch over and go here. So we'll do her cobwebs. I'll do the superfine again. Let's go over here. I'm going to stop here so I can do my spider there later. I told you I can never go over my lines without making mistakes. It happens. And I've just learned to embrace that process. It's like, yep, I know I will do it. So just anticipating that I'm going to make a mistake. And also just be easy with yourself, especially when you're new to something. You know, if you're new to like lettering or new to doodles, of course you're not going to get it perfectly first time around. But with practice, makes everything better. Trust me on that one. It may not make it perfect, you know, because for me, there's no perfection. You can always improve, you know, as long as you keep doing it consistently. Consistent is the key, consistency. All right, we're going to move over to our pumpkin. I will do the spiders last because I'll make those black. I'll start here with the bottom. Oh, this is difficult. Maybe I should start with the top. Let's start with the top. Okay. I'm just going over. You are like me and you're having like trouble with how thick one side of your notebook is, what you can always do is just kind of like find that happy, like, there you go. Because sometimes when it's too high and I don't have support here, it's going to be messy. My drawings are going to end up looking like a mess. So I want to make sure that I have support in my hand and my palm so I can relax while doing it as well. Because if you're straining your hand, it's not good because you'll end up having cramps and you know it's not good. Art it's not supposed to hurt. Okay. So here I'm going to go over now. Pumpkin. This is much better already. Just moving my notebook. There. I'm going to do the last. And also another tip that I'd like to share with you. If you feel like you can't if you're creating like a long line, later we're going to make these lines. If that's difficult for you, you can always stop in the middle of the line and just kind of like follow again, you know, so don't feel like you have to finish one big stroke or one long stroke at a time. If it's something that you're not comfortable with, please know that you can always stop in the middle, you know. Sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we feel like we have to just finish that one stroke right then and there. There we go. And then I'll move over to my next pumpkin. You know me, if you're familiar with my work, you know that I love kawaii things. So if Pinkie the bear has a face, I'm going to have to put a face here as well. So for the long bottom pumpkin, I'm going to make this eyes feel like it's squinting, but it's going to be happy. Like blushing, squinting face. And then a cute little tiny mouth. And this one, to give them character and just to kind of like bring them to life. Adding those cute little faces are just, yeah, icing on top. This one, I'm just going to draw his eyes and tiny lashes. And this is where using the super fine tip helps a lot, especially small details like that. If I would have to do that with a brush pen, yeah, that's not going to happen. Trust me, it's not going to look the same. Okay, I'm heading over, switching to our little pumpkin here. I'll start with the middle part, like that. And keep adding my letter C's. There. And if you've noticed, it's kind of like different from this one because I'm playing around with my sizes of the letter C's that I'm adding. So it just keeps getting smaller. And so visually what it tells is like, oh, this pumpkin is wide. And then I'm going to add the stalk. That way, and then just adding on the side, the back of the pumpkin. All right, so now we have that. Let's head on over to our letter. So for the month of September, I'm gonna go and use the same color, the indanthrine blue. And I'm not gonna overthink this, just knowing that, okay, make my strokes or my lines thick, I'm going to have to apply pressure, right? And every single time I would write towards me, that is when my downstroke or my thick strokes are going to be. So again, if you are, curious about brush lettering, I highly suggest checking out some of our past tutorials and past classes, and you're going to learn brush lettering. So I'm just going to keep it simple for now, and we're going to add our extras later. I always remind you guys this one, if it's not perfect the first time around, please know that you can always come back and fix that. If you feel like your strokes are not thin enough or thick enough, then you can thicken that later. Okay, so I feel this one, my spaces over here are much more closer than over here. So I'm going to adjust my letters. And that's where having that first sketch helps a lot, because it's like, oh, look at this. My letters are so much closer here than this one. All right, so this time I'm just going to add areas where I want thick. Just going to add in those, thick some of the lines. There we go. And then go over the same strokes. Here, I want to add this, that. Add thickness over there. I feel like I want to add thickness over here on top. And then I'm going to add some shadows in here later. With this one, you can make it look like a bubble letter if that is what you would like. Just make all the ends of your letters more round, so instead of a square like that, you can like make it rounder, and that will help you to create that bubble letters. I don't always prefer that look. I really love this style. But again, depends on my mood as well.
Lay, we have someone asking, they said they keep smudging their fingers on the Pitt pens, which is then transferring to the bullet journal. Do you have any tips for that?
You know, my tip would be really, to be honest with you, I never experienced that with the Pitt artist, but I think what it is that it always depends on the paper that we're using. So for example, we're using a paper with a lot of coating, like Leuchtturm has a little bit of coating, the Hobonichi, because if you're using a very smooth paper with some coating in it, then that's when you might have to wait just a little bit of drying time, which was never an issue with me with a Pitt artist, because this is really something I recommend for the lefties too, because they dry fast. But again, it always going to depend on what kind of paper that you're using. So if you're, always experiencing that, I guess just planning ahead your artwork or your layout will really help. So for example, I know that I'm going to work on this one first, and I'm going to do this first so that when I work on my right side, this will have enough drying time. Does that make sense? So just kind of like plan ahead what you're doing. So give it enough, a little bit of just drying time, and then work on another area instead of just focusing on one area and then know that you might end up smudging things. And what helps also, I've seen a lot of people do is, if you have like a piece of paper, it doesn't have to be a vellum. I just happen to have a vellum here on my end. What happens is that they use a paper like this so they don't smudge it, because sometimes, we have moisture, we have, sweat. So having a paper this way under my hand will help not smudge the things. So I've seen people do that. I've never have to worry about the smudging. So I never had to do that, but that might help because I've seen a lot of bullet journalers do that as well. And a lot of artists too, that works with some medium that takes a little bit of drying time. So just plan ahead your artwork, knowing that it might smudge. So now that I know that this is done, I'll just let that dry for a little bit and I'll work on other areas. So here we're done, but if I want to thicken this up, I can, but I'm not going to worry about that. We'll do our lines this time. So let it sit here and let it dry for a little bit, and we'll come back to that before we start adding the shadows, the other colors in there. So for my lines, like what I said, they're not going to be perfect. They're going to be wonky, but I think that's part of the character or the visual that I like. But if you want to be perfect, then you always have the option to use a ruler this way. I don't know. I always just struggle with rulers. So I'm like, you know what? No, I'm not going to even worry about it. We have our lines. And also what helps a lot is, drawing from the top to bottom, knowing that you're not going to smudge anything. I'm not the best at it, but it's really a good practice. See, I should have done the top first. See what I'm talking about? If I would have done the top, I will not have to worry about smudging this line. So this line, this line, this line, and then that line. That's how I should have done that. So let's practice here. So we have this line. I don't have to worry about smudging here, anything. I'm going to do the top first, and then I'll do this one, and then close it in. Okay. So do the top, to the left, side, oops, and that side. There. I will do this top. And then if you're a righty, if you're a lefty, then you want to worry about doing everything to your right first. Because if you're going to do everything from the left, naturally, so if you're a lefty, you're going to have to do this, then you have to smudge everything, right? So if you do this first, everything on your right, then you don't have to worry about smudging everything here. So start from right to go to the left. And if you're a righty, start from everything to the right, from the left to the right. Goodness gracious. I hope that made sense. So it's just kind of like pre-planning. And I think the more you do it, the more you're going to find that jive, your groove, because we all have it. It's kind of like some people are just really want their artwork or their layout super perfect with their lines. Some just don't mind the crooked and imperfect lines like me. So we're just all different. And the more you do things, the more you find your groove, like what I said. I'm just repeating what I said, but that way. And once you start adding colors in your drawings or your doodles, trust me, you will hardly even notice the lines. The lines are just there, but that's not the focus in it. I'm just going to add a flag. That's too small. All right. And I'm going to do the vine. Like that. And from here, this way. I'll do the top first. And then I'll do this bottom. I even stretched it over to that side. Now, I think looking at this, I'm not sure if I want to make the spiders black. So I'm just going to stick with this color. Just going to do, and see how I made my lines squiggly instead of just one straight line. Just follow along that sketch and then fill in your color. I'm using the brush tip this time. I like using the brush tip when I'm coloring a much larger area because I can finish an area much faster than if I would use a fine tip. And when you're trying to do a thin line, if you're using a brush tip, remember to just go lightly. Apply really light pressure. I know it's not easy because I personally have heavy hands, so that's something that I struggle with. But being aware that I struggle with that, it just makes me more mindful when I'm working on my artworks. It's kind of like, okay, Lay, you write really heavily, so when I'm trying to create like thin strokes, I'm more mindful. So it's really like paying attention to what I'm doing, and it really helps. All right, so I think we have enough drying time for this. I'm going to have some yellow and purple color. I'll start with the yellow first. So this one is the dark chrome yellow 109. So I always talk about this as well, adding highlights and shadows. So for creating shadows with your lettering, choose one side only. So always consider your light source. If your light source is over here, which is what we're going to do today. So understanding my light source is coming from the top right, all my shadows will be to the left side of the letters. You choose one, and that's what you stick to. If your light source is here, then all your shadows will be on the right side, to the right side of your letters, all right? So my light source will be on the top right. So I'm just quickly doing this because we don't have time. So just going over all the left side of the letters. Like that. And when I'm creating layouts, I try to stick with 3 or 4 colors. It really helps with minimizing your artwork for it not to be too overwhelming. Sometimes it gets too overwhelming when you have crazy colors in there. So what I try to do is just keep my colors 3 or 4 maximum. Left side. So, all right, then I'm going to go add my crimson 134. This time I'm just going to go outside that yellow line and just adding it. All right, so since we don't have a whole lot of time, I want to skip on that, but I just wanted to show you the process. Let's color in the pumpkin. So when we color in the pumpkin, I always try to have 3 different colors. So basically I'll start with the lightest, the medium, and we'll add details using or shadows using the darkest one. So I'm just going to go over here. This is a cadmium yellow 107 by using the body of my brush pen and how I'm holding, notice how I'm holding my pen and how I'm applying it. It's like almost 45-degree angled, so I can use the body of this brush pen. We're just doing this. Always start with your lightest color first. If you're afraid of smudging the colors, because some colors smudge, so just try your hardest to avoid that area. Or for example, the mouth, if I have much more of that blue and I feel like I might smudge it, so I'm not going to go over that part. Just try my hardest not to smudge that. And now with the medium color, I'm going to start adding in my shadows. Just go over it. It helps if I don't put the lid back on. And then using that yellow again, just kind of helping out the color. Sometimes I would go do a tip to tip action, picking up those colors in there. And don't worry, you're not going to ruin your pen. Part might do this. Again, you always play around with your tools. If one way didn't work out for you, try another way and find something that would work the best for you. So if I feel like, oh, you know what, I'm getting too much of the orange and I really don't want that harsh lines over there, let me show you real quick. See what I did in here? So if you don't want any of those strokes, what I did was just simply touch the tip of my orange, and then now I have a very smooth blending of the color, the yellow and this orange one. So that's my secret when I'm like trying to blend, have a smooth gradient without those thicker strokes. And if you feel like you don't have enough color of the orange, you might want to try a darker orange. And let's try that. Feel like, okay, I want to add more shadows in here. So I'm going to try and get that darkest color that I have. Just applying, and you'll still have very smooth gradient. There. I'm going to have the orange color in here. I'm just creating a base for a pumpkin. Again, these are the colors that I will end up using. I like the medium orange. I love the dark. The darkest one that I have here is the scarlet red. I love that scarlet red. And so for the hat, Pinkie's hat, we're just gonna color it the same color that we used to create the shadow for our month of September. Now, when you're coloring with the Pitt Artist pen, make sure that you're really mindful with your strokes. Okay, so it takes a little bit of practice. It's kind of like when you were in kindergarten. They said go one direction, and that really applies when you're using the Pitt Artist that way. And then what you can do is use the color yellow, and I'm just going to apply that on top. And this is where I'm going to put in the days of the week. And if your choice, you might want to, if you want to use different colors for your weekend, you know, to differentiate the weekend, that helps a lot. So I'm just using the body of this marker to kind of like spread and create thicker strokes that way. Because if you would use the tip of your marker, it will take you a while. But if you use the body or the base of your marker and just kind of like apply a little bit of pressure, you are getting more strokes or more areas at one time. But that's really it. This is it. I'm just going to color in the pumpkin. We're running out of time, but I hope that this was helpful. And if you have other questions for me, you can always reach out to us at Faber-Castell USA on Instagram. And again, I'm there too at Mommy Lay. So ask me a question. I had so much fun. This was really inspiring. I'm going to finish this after class because this will be my layout for next week. I'm just going to keep erasing some of our first layer of sketches. But I hope that this was helpful. This was super cool. Again, if you created with us today, please tag us on social media. Would love to see them. Thank you for joining me again. Let me see you one more time before I say goodbye. Thank you so much. Thank you, Faber-Castell. And next week, we also have another fun class. So please do check that out on Michael's website. And I hope to see you again next week because we're going to do a lot of doodling again for Halloween. So if you are someone that loves Halloween and craft projects with Halloween stuff, I think it's something that you would not want to miss. Thank you, Faber-Castell, for having me. Thank you, Michaels. Thank you, everybody. Please stay creative, stay healthy, and stay happy. Until next time. Bye, guys.